I've legitimately felt left out or let down by some of the products or the offers. I hate to even call them offers, by some of the products that have been pushed on me by artists that I like. It can be disappointing. And if that's not reason enough to want to beat your imposter syndrome away, I don't know what is.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. This is episode 206. I'm your co-host, Jack McCarthy. With me is my awesome co-host, frontman of the 502s, and Indie X account strategist, Ed Isola. Ed, what's up, dude?
I am doing pretty dang good, my friend. Pretty good indeed. It's been a good start to the week, and I feel like I say this every week. It's a good start to the week, and we got some exciting stuff to talk about, but it's all true always.
It's always, I feel like Tuesdays are very energetic here at Entrepreneur HQ. Just to give some context, we have a whole agency team meeting on Tuesdays a couple hours before the podcast. So usually we're like buzzing with ideas. And I think oftentimes that those ideas have come out in episodes, or sometimes we've totally pivoted what we were going to talk about and ended up bringing something new to the table. So that's just one piece of the the excitement that goes on recording days on Tuesdays, usually here at Team Entrepreneur.
Yeah, man, by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon when we record, it's like all the juices are flowing. Actually, hold on. All the creative juices are flowing.
There you go.
Look at the camera and smile now.
Break the fourth wall here. Well, I'm really excited about this episode. This was something that you and I kind of identified towards the end of last year that we wanted to talk about at some point on the show this year. And I think that this is going to be really fun, kind of talking about beating imposter syndrome into submission in your music career and specifically in your marketing, because it's something I personally see a lot of. I think a lot of artists deal with this. I think a lot of artists struggle with it, and fewer artists find pathways to get over it. So I wanted to chat about that and share some experiences that we've seen for some of our clients at the agency. I wanted to start with Ed. Have you ever felt a sense of imposter syndrome when it comes to making offers to your fans or getting out there? I wouldn't personally think that it would be a recent phenomenon for you, but I'm curious.
Dude, absolutely, yes. And it's funny. I think that it's something a lot of artists struggle with and feel. Essentially, the way I think of imposter syndrome is like, why would anybody care what I have to talk about? Like, therefore, I'm not going to offer things and offer them in the coolest way possible, because like, what if they don't like it? What if they don't care? It's kind of like this protection. And it's really funny because I feel like when the 502 started, the first offer we ever made was just at Circa's kind of suggestion of like, hey, do a signed CD plus some bonuses. So that was like, okay, we'll do it. But then as soon as we started having to make like consistent sales promos, where it was like t-shirts or other CDs or free plus shipping and handling, it very quickly to me felt like, I don't want to do that. And so it's something that I have definitely felt, and it's something that I definitely sympathize with people, because it's something that I'm just now starting to break out of. And I think I'm breaking out of it mostly because of the marketing side of my brain, because I understand the marketing. I'm like, I can separate the artistry from the marketing portion of it, but I don't know that's something a lot of people have the benefit of doing. So I think it'll be really helpful to kind of start to talk through that today and help people understand that like, people are your fans because they want to hear from you. They want to support you. So like, you have to kind of get over yourself in that sense.
Yeah. That's actually a really interesting way of putting it, because something I think you and I talk about a lot when we talk about marketing as a creative is that your marketing and your artistry should be creative and hand in hand together. But I think what you're kind of saying here is like, to get over that initial feeling of imposter syndrome, it almost is like you have to separate the two first, to be like, these are divorced from each other. Like this sales email that I'm about to send, it's divorced a bit from the language of like what I would put in a social post that I make. Not totally. Like, you're not going to be writing like your Coca-Cola in your emails and then writing like the 502s in an IG post. But there is some degree of like needing to put it aside and be like, okay, these are different things. And then to allow them to come back together and, make something that's on brand, just so that you get over the hurdle to actually do it.
Like you said, when you have something that is creative and we talk about all the marketing being hand in hand creatively, I think that where the barrier comes into place is that as soon as money's involved, as soon as you're asking people to pay for anything, it's like this reluctance to then be creative.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's really easy to talk about like, hey, you should be really creative with your album launch and like how you get people to sign up. And people are like, heck yeah, that's awesome. Free thing, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's because if you do an album launch for free and nobody likes it, for some reason you can stomach that. But if you make a sales offer and you only make like $50 from it, that's really discouraging.
That's a really, really good point. I think a lot of artists do struggle with that because like that kind of creativity, like conceptual creativity, we'll call it. Like, I'm going to make this a cool experience for my fans, and there's going to be goodies and giveaways. And you'll sometimes see artists do like scavenger hunts and secret things that fans can unlock. Like, all of that kind of lives not far off from how I'm going to package my record, right? Or like what the liner notes are going to say or the album art is going to look like. But you're right. When it does come to selling, all of a sudden that's like crossing into a territory where it's like, oh, wait, hold on. I'm asking people for money. Like, I need to pump the brakes. I think you're right. That is a really good point. Cirque and I did an episode on this a long time ago. We'll link back to it in the show notes. It was an episode specifically on selling. We called it Is Selling Evil? And we talked about like why creatives, just like I think that artists, musicians, creatives are naturally tuned to be marketers. I think they're also naturally tuned to make really awesome salespeople, sales offers, maybe if you don't want to say salespeople. But we talked about that. And I think you're totally right that that's the threshold there. And I want to lead with this. I wasn't going to mention this at the top of the episode since we're kind of touching on it. This was actually, not only was this a topic that we started to get into and said we wanted to touch on, towards the end of last year, it was actually something that you and I had kind of identified earlier in 2021, possibly even 2020, as like a content piece that we were going to create for IndieX. And we even started to do it. And now we're kind of full circle here talking about it on the podcast, which is really cool. This brings to mind like some examples from the agency, and maybe we can share, without naming names or giving away any identifiable details, of just kind of like comparing and contrasting like examples of this kind of imposter syndrome creeping in for artists that it really shouldn't, just to give some ideas of how you guys can get over that and kind of move through it. Ed, I know there's one fresh in mind that you and I were talking about recently.
Yeah. I mean, like, the good news is, if you're a grassroots artist, is that this is not something, good and bad news is it's not something that's just going to go away by itself. It's something that you have to actively work towards normalizing internally in order to make these offers. Because what Jack is referring to, we've had several really, really big artists at IndieX that you guys would 100% recognize the names if we dropped them, that have good followings, big followings, that prior to coming on IndieX didn't really love making sales offers. And we're going to kind of dive into a lot of this, but where it gets crazy is like, what's the thing that every album launch, if you ask anybody, an entrepreneur, or you say, what's a good first offer? My answer would be a signed CD or a limited edition CD or something that's like a low cost to you to print. You can make it cool by signing it or giving a note or whatever, and then you can sell it for 15, 20 bucks. That's something that works for artists of all sizes. So sometimes when we work with bigger artists, it's almost like, oh, you haven't done that yet, like, let's do it. And then there's this reluctance still at even the highest level of like, well, would people really want my signature on this CD for $20? Is that really that cool? And it's like, okay, let's test it. We go and test it, and it makes like tens of thousands of dollars in a day. And I think that that's where it's like, one, like I was saying, the imposter syndrome, it carries through everybody. So it's not something that you're going to grow out of. I think it starts when you're an artist first developing, and there's probably the sense of like, does anybody care? And that carries through until you force yourself out of it.
Yeah. I mean, so this reminds me, like, I know the specific artist that you're thinking of, Ed, and I know that the conversations that you guys were having when putting together a sales offer was around a signed CD, which is something that they hadn't done previously, like ever, for any of their releases, hadn't released a signed version of their record. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the conversation was down to like, it was like, oh, I'm just going to sell it for $10 and that's going to be it. And it was like, wait a minute, no, like this is something valuable to your fans. Like they're going to want this. This is a limited amount, literally like no fake scarcity at all. Like this is very much a true limited thing. You should be charging more money for it, a decent chunk more money than you would be if you were just selling a standard CD with no signature, nothing special about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like those are the conversations that you have to kind of sort out. And I think we actually did end up selling it for like $10 or $15, which in my opinion was really low. But the trade-off was that we actually were able to make the offer. It went really, really well. And now we're looking towards doing like one-off like collection pieces, like, okay, hey, there's 50 of these or 100 of these. And so like I said, you kind of have to break yourself out of it. So while that particular sales promo wasn't necessarily optimized for the most revenue, what it was really successful at was, one, generating revenue, and two, helping this artist feel like, okay, I actually can make these offers and like people will respond positively to them.
That's a good point of like how you can tiptoe yourself into it, is like if you feel uncomfortable selling something, don't feel weird about trying to sell it at a price that you feel like, okay, I would do this. Like this reminds me of something that Casey mentioned on the episode that we had with Casey Cavalier from Wonder Years. He was like, one of our litmus tests with something we do with our band is like, we look at something that we're putting together and all of us kind of say like, well, is this something that like I would buy, or is this something that I would be grossed out by? And I think that is like, an interesting kind of litmus test, where like I would argue that you do have to push your boundaries a bit beyond that, but like going in the same kind of sphere of saying like, okay, like you could test a lower price that you could stomach. And then you can say like, okay, I do recognize that it is probably more valuable than this, and I could probably charge more money for it because my fans really would dig this and it's something special. I think that that's a good way to get into doing it, like you were saying with this one artist, like this allowed you to get over the hurdle of like, okay, this is something that people actually want.
Yeah, and it's crazy because this is the exact same mentality to me as email marketing, like in terms of nurturing. Nobody wants to do it, but then you start to do it and you start to understand like, okay, wait, so I can make these cool offers, and these offers can actually play directly into my narrative as an artist and my relationship with my fans. And I think like I was saying, I think where the disconnect is that you have your artistry, you have your music. It's very clear how that ties into your relationship with your fans in an authentic way. Money and monetization of products is not as clear how it ties in. And I think the core for myself and for everybody I've ever heard kind of object to making a sales offer is like, I don't want to scam my fans. I don't want to just be an artist that's like, buy this shirt, do this, do that, do this, like, essentially collecting money. And like, I think that is a great place to come from. Because I think what it encourages then, like Casey said, you have to do these great offers where it's like, I would want that. And that's where, like, that's to me was the revelation of like, I can make sales offers, but they better be really cool. And so I think we just tested for the 502s a flash sale discount code to the store. And even that was themed around my birthday. It was like, hey, it's my birthday.
It was for your birthday. Yeah. Ed had a birthday last week.
Yes, it was a good one too. It was probably one of the better ones in a long time. But this birthday thing, it wasn't just like an email that said, hey, here's a discount code for 20% to the store, go grab some stuff. It was still themed. It was like, hey, it's my birthday, I want to give you a gift, here's a discount code, go grab it, right? So even that and the presentation of the offer was part of the 502's brand. It was very on brand for us to want to give a gift for my birthday. I want to make people kind of have a reason to celebrate with us. It comes off as, hey, we're giving you something, we're providing value. And so like, I think that's the same thing. I mean, my favorite go-to is always, here's the product, and also here's like 1 to 2 free bonuses. It's very rare that we make an offer that doesn't have a free bonus, or, isn't like BOGO where it was like, hey, buy 1 poster, get a second poster free. It's like, you could tie that, like I said, you could tie this into your artistry. And so then it's not, hey, I don't want to scam my fans by making this cheap offer, but like, hey, I really just am excited about this, and like, I want my fans to have this, and therefore it's a good offer. It's fairly priced. The margins are good. Like, there's all stuff you check on the back end, but when you present it, you feel really confident about it, and the fact that this is dope. My fans want this, so let's do it. Why wouldn't we do it if my fans want it? And I think that's the barrier to get over. It's like, you got to be creative.
I want to take a deep dive into bonuses in a second here, because it reminds me of going back to our conversation just a second ago about pricing and where you can price things at, like I think a lot of creatives do feel like when they're selling something, it needs to be presented as if it's discounted in order for it to feel authentic and okay to be making the ask. And bonuses adding bonuses to a sales offer, they allow you to take away that necessity of discounting because you are adding value, like you said. I want to touch on that, but this reminds me of something else that happened a few years back at IndieX. A client that we were working with came on board for an album launch, an artist with a very, very large fan base spanning decades. And they came on board and we were working with their team to get ready to launch their record, and they were having CDs, they were having vinyl. And the first thing that we looked to do with them was optimize their offer. That was like literally the first week that we were spending at the agency just getting ready to prep for this big launch was, okay, how can we optimize this offer for revenue? And how can we do it in a way that feels cool and authentic? And it was crazy what the low-hanging fruit was, because they had a limited number of vinyl and a limited number of CDs initially, and all of the vinyl were already signed. And we were like, okay, well, you should probably like add $15 to the price of these and sell them that way. And then for the CDs, there was a limited number of those that they said, okay, well, we can set them aside and we'll sign these and we can then sell them at the same price, but it'll be limited edition. And the conversation that I had had with their team was like, hey, let's set those aside, charge some more money, and they'll probably sell out really fast. They'll give you a nice revenue bump, and then we can continue to sell the rest. And that's exactly what happened. Both of those products sold out. The limited edition variants that had just a signing bonus sold out within 48 hours, which was really, really wild. It was a cool experience to see for sure. But that was just one example of like such a simple bonus allowed you, because it had so much value and weight to it, that like, a super fan of this artist, someone who followed them for years and years and years. And I hate the term super fan, but like when I think of this artist, that's what I think of it. That immediately goes to my mind. Like, the raving kind of fan advocates that would follow somebody like this around. That's what we were seeing. That's what we were seeing people really move into. That was kind of one of the big opportunities. So that was really cool to see that would be something that would be valuable to these people. But it doesn't always have to look like that. And it doesn't always have to be a requirement that you have a fan base that is massive and diehard lifelong for decades. Like creating bonuses, you can really do it for any kind of offer that you're making around any product. This is a definition that I often go to, and let me know what you think about this, Ed. But like I often say, like, your product is your product. And this is something that I think a lot of creatives get hung up on, is like, my offer is this, it's my CD, like it's the album. My offer is this, it's the book that I'm putting out, whatever it might be. But it's not. Your product is your product, and your offer is the way that you're presenting that product to your market. And I think that there's a very important distinction between those two definitions.
Yeah, I agree 100%. In fact, my grandpa was long time in retail, and when he told me once, he was like, people don't buy the product. Like nobody needs a CD, nobody needs your shirt. Like they're not buying the product to buy the product. Like you said, they're buying it to support you or because the offer's cool and they can't bypass it. And so I feel like this is a good opportunity, even as we're talking about it, it's like, wow, these are all really good observations in terms of how to make sales. But I could see artists listening to this and saying like, I don't know, it's kind of cringy. They're really talking about how to sell products and move products to their fans. Like they're kind of trying to like they're talking about how they can drain people for money. And I think that's where you got to have like the paradigm shift of, that's not what we're saying. We're saying, hey, here's how you can sell. But the way I like to look at it is like, I almost feel like at this point, if myself or some of these artists that we work with don't go above and beyond to make a cool offer, to one, put the offer together, and then two, present the cool offer, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to our supporters. Like, I feel like they want that stuff, It's not like I'm sitting here coming from a place of like, hey, I want your money. It's like, look, you've been hanging out with us for 2 years. I just got a pair of custom Converse made. I kind of feel like you would like them. And here you go, And it's, so I think that's one observation, is that like, If you're having a hard time, frame it that way. Like, you need to make offers to people. You need to make sure the product's cool. But if you don't, you're kind of undervaluing your fans and like their time and effort into your guys' relationship.
No, that's a great point. Like, not making offers right off the bat, like that is taking away value from your fans for sure. Like, you're not even giving them the opportunity, it is taking opportunity off the table for them. Not making super cool offers is just like, that's kind of being lukewarm about it. It's like, like, I don't really care about this. Like, I'm just doing it because I know I have to. That couldn't be further from the point of making a sales offer. Like, that kind of mentality, while it seems like it might be taking a softer approach, in my opinion, like, I think the laziness kind of comes through. And to be honest with you, I've recognized this in artists that I like. Like, I've seen this where I'm like, oh man, like, missed opportunity to do this. Like, I would have bought this happily and remembered it and would have stuck with me. But now it's just kind of like, it's just a shirt, or it's just a CD, or it's just a vinyl. I've identified that a bunch of times. And it's not just because like I think about marketing all the time. Like, I've legitimately felt left out or let down by some of the products or the offers. I hate to even call them offers, by some of the products that have been pushed on me by artists that I like. It can be disappointing. And if that's not reason enough to want to beat your imposter syndrome away, I don't know what is. It's disappointing as a fan when an artist doesn't put a lot of like thought and effort into a transaction, a shaking of hands, so to speak.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and I agree with that 100%. And there's an artist that I like who posted on their Instagram story and was like, tomorrow at noon, 24 hours before, tomorrow at noon, we have a super exciting offer for you guys, like super exciting surprise. You guys are going to love it. And I'm like, oh, damn, what is it? Like, and my mind starts with like, is it bundles? Like, what are they going to offer us? Like this cool stuff. And then it was a 20% discount on their store. And like, it was really underwhelming because it was like, okay, like, thank you,
That is the biggest letdown ever.
It really is. And it's like, I'm sure they made money off of 20% off, but like what they didn't do with that 20% off is probably one, make as much revenue as they could. Two, that discount code did nothing for their relationship with their fans, right? Like nobody is taking that and being like, man, they really hooked me up, right? They came through for me. Whereas if that offer was like, hey, here's 20% off the store and the first 200 orders are going to get this exclusive whatever you want, free $4 product that comes with the first orders. It's like all of a sudden it's like, man, they're giving me a discount and they're giving me this cool like bonus thing from the store that's a limited quantity thing. That makes you want it. And then when you receive it, it makes you feel like now I have this piece of this artist's kind of career that not everybody else has. And it's the same thing when it comes to album launch, like providing value. You have to provide value in your offers. And I think that like so many artists make bad offers, like we've already touched on a couple, or they just overprice their items too. If you go to a store and it's like 40, 50 bucks, I mean, sure, there's probably a couple of designer artists that can get away with that, but the opportunity, I think, for creative artists and independents right now is like, you have direct communication with fans. You can price things fairly. Like I have direct control over my margins, right? I can go look and say, here's how much the core product cost me. Here's how much the free bonus cost me. I'm going to charge them for shipping. What do I want to charge? If I want to make $10 per unit or $20 per unit, like what do I need to charge them? And then you can just set your margins accordingly so you don't have to price gouge people. I think that's a great opportunity, as well as the fact that you have the ability to tailor things to people and really put together offers that make people see them and go, damn, I really need that. I don't have the money, but I need that. And therefore I'm going to make it happen. Because like Jack said, people aren't buying products. They're buying the offer. They're buying the relationship. They're buying, honestly, I think, the effort you put into creating an offer for them.
I totally agree. I think that's a good way of saying it. Like, in a lot of ways, I think in creative industries especially, you are so often buying to affirm the relationship that you have with the artist that you follow, especially if it's a first-time purchase. We don't need to go down the psychology there. We talk about that plenty. But that's a great point. And to your point about knowing your numbers, that's really important too. And that's kind of what allows you to unlock the like mentality of being trapped in just like needing to discount everything or to charge very, very little for everything. All of a sudden you can see like, okay, it's going to cost me this much money to put this product together. It's going to cost me X amount to add these bonuses. Let's talk for a minute about bonuses, because I think we could unpack this a little bit more, just to say like how bonuses allow you, including bonuses in an offer, allows you to unlock the ability to charge more. And most importantly, I think to make things feel more exclusive to your fans and truly make it more exclusive. Like make the scarcity real, make the urgency real. And I think you can do that in a way that doesn't cost you a ton either. And it doesn't force you to make all high ticket items. Here's a good example. Like one of our clients at IndieX, all throughout 2020, for every new merch line item that he dropped, and he was dropping new designs roughly every month, we had a bonus for each of them that was a mask, a free mask that cost him very, very little. So it was low cost, high margin, and high value because people at the time, especially at the time, really wanted masks. And that blew up. People loved it. They sent in photos of them in the masks and all that stuff. And obviously like that's very timely and is specific to a particular season, so to speak. But the same thing kind of applies, I think, across the board, no matter where you might be making offers. Here's another example. If you were running an album launch and you were putting together an offer for the record, and let's say there was a big bunch of behind the scenes content that you gave people ahead of the record, and whether they had to opt in for that or not, or if it was something that was just living on YouTube or living on your socials or whatever. Let's say that with, the first 500 copies of your record on vinyl, you had taken, a series of, I don't know, I'm just going to pull something out here. And I know this is something that you and I have talked about before, Ed, but like you had taken a whole bunch of like disposable camera photos throughout the process of creating the record and throughout the process of building this whole experience. And, with each of the limited edition versions of the record, people got, 2 or 3 photos, or maybe they got a whole freaking disposable camera that they got to develop themselves and kind of unpackage this cool sort of like, this is only for my eyes only kind of thing. Super low cost, depending on how much you acquire a disposable camera for. I guess that's a questionable, but super low cost to give people, a set of photos that belongs only to them. Here's another one from the agency, from IndieX. Last year, one of our clients at New Year's dropped a merch line at New Year's, but on New Year's, like from New Year's Eve through the following week, every one of the shirts in the new line came with a shot glass, and it was like toast the new year with us. And it didn't cost any extra at all. It allowed them to price their shirt a little more expensive than what they were typically selling them for, but not crazy. They weren't gouging people. Cost them very little to get these shot glasses. They were like $1 a piece or something, and allowed them to add margin padding to their sales offer by quite a bit. And their fans went nuts for it. They loved it. It was probably one of the best selling offers that they had had that year. And it was just something as simple as adding a little freebie bonus. Maybe you can unpack some stuff that you've seen too, Ed. I know like 502s are brilliant at this stuff, especially around album launches and tripwires.
Yeah, I'm just writing notes as you're talking, like thinking about the things. And here's the first thing, right? I feel like the objection to bonuses oftentimes is like, well, I'm already not making that much money from this. Therefore, I can't spend more money on an additional product and make even less money. But it's like your example and countless other examples. If you're selling a shirt for $20, right, and it costs you $10 to print it, and you're selling the shirt for $20, then you're making $10 per order. If you add a shot glass to the order and it costs you $1 to create the shot glass, now your cost of production is $11, including the shirt. You can probably sell it for $25. So now you're making $14. Like you're making more money oftentimes, like Jack was just saying. I just wanted to underline that. When you add bonuses and you add cool creative things, you can do it at a low cost to you. So shot glasses, handwritten notes, we'll send you a selfie video, counts as a lifetime discount at the merch stand. Those kind of things, they don't cost you anything, but they do increase the coolness offer where people are like I said, for me, it's always like, damn, I would need this, right? I would want that. And that drives your revenue up. And you start to sell more products at a higher price, which is ultimately how you kind of increase your store revenue. So I think one, like you just said, that is where you want to get to. And I think that mentality has to start even as you're a small artist. Like, look, I had the biggest imposter syndrome of all time when we did our first album launch and we're selling behind the scenes passes to our shows, right? Like, hey, you get behind the scenes access to concerts. And to date, nobody has ever taken us up on that offer. But a lot of people were excited about it when we made it. People bought the offer 5 years ago. Nobody has since redeemed it and been like, hey, here's my booklet. Can I get backstage? People just think it's cool. They have this booklet that is this exclusive thing, and it has the lyrics, and it has this backstage access if they want it. And I mean, we would honor that if somebody has it and shows up, like, great, come hang out. Like, you bought this in 2015 before the band even really was formed. Like, Godspeed to you, you know? That's to say, like, you can come up with things that are low effort to you that help build the relationship and kind of allow your fans to feel like they're actually part of your ecosystem and not just a customer pulling their credit card out. And I think that's the advantage that artists have. You hit on a couple examples that I was thinking of as well, Jack. I'm even thinking of the Valentine's offer that we're doing for the 502s this week. Like, essentially, this isn't a disguised offer, and we actually launched it today, of the day of recording this, February 1st, and we posted on our Instagram story and said, like, hey, we're going to send Valentine's videos out to whoever wants one. Like, go ahead, opt into this form. We link to it on our story. Join it. We'll send you guys a video. There's 6 of us in the band, so it'll take us a few hours each to do probably the 1,000 to 2,000 videos that we'll get. And we put a tripwire on the back end that said, like, hey, congrats, you've got access to this special t-shirt because you took us up on our Valentine's offer. So, like, will you be our Valentine? Like, there's a special t-shirt that is not publicly available. And I think we spent $500 printing 100 of the shirts. So far in the first not even 12 hours, we've had 20 orders and we've made $600. So we've profited on the shirts. And now we've got 80 more t-shirts, give or take, to sell. That's all profit.
And you got 100 new people on your email list that are going to get really cool videos from you guys.
Yeah.
Or how many people did you say signed up, sir?
Yeah, so we've got like 400 people, 300 people, 300 or 400 new subscribers from this, and 20 new customers, and we've made all of our money back. And so, like, those are things that are like, cool, yes, the revenue is nice. Like, it's nice to get $500-$600 in from these shirts, but now we have product that's backstock that we can sell at a profit. People are losing their minds posting on our social media, like commenting, being like, literally, you guys are like the only band that treats their fans as if they're people. And like that's the thing that where you're making offers, that's the sentiment you want your fans to have. That, like, yeah, sure, okay, you bought the shirt. I really want you to have it because it's a cool, kind of funny little shirt. But also, like, we're not price gouging you. It really is a heartfelt, like, hey, we're going to give this cool Valentine's Day video. It is going to take us a lot of time. Might as well give you these shirts too if you guys are interested in it. So it's just being real with it. It's this ties into the episode we've done in the past with, like, how do you behave like a real human being on social media? It's the same thing here. Like, you have to make sure that offer, the Valentine's Day offer that we're doing, would not have been as well received of, like, people thanking us for making them the t-shirt offer had it been like, hey, buy a t-shirt for Valentine's Day, LOL, like that kind of thing. They would be like, okay, they're just selling us a product, as opposed to, like, here's all this cool stuff we're doing for you. And also, if you want one of these limited shirts, grab it. If not, cool. Another easy thing to kind of highlight is, like, you don't have to hard sell people. We don't hard sell anybody ever. It's like, here's the thing. If you want it, cool. I know it's valuable in terms of, like, what's included in the offer, bonuses, that kind of stuff. Here it is. It's more making people aware of it and let them decide. And sure, we use persuasive language, but, like, it's not a hard sell being like, you must buy now, or, like, don't come back, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great point. And I'm glad you mentioned that offer specifically, because I wanted to kind of underline that this doesn't just go for sales. This goes for, like, the imposter syndrome when it comes to trying to get people to sign up for your email list. Like, you guys very well could have said, oh, who's going to want a video from us? We'll just put the opt-in form on our website and that'll be it. Or we'll keep doing what we've been doing all this time and, like, presenting our music as something that people can get and experience. Like, we're not going to try something new. That sentiment could have easily crept in. So it applies to not just sales. It applies to getting people on your list. It applies to releasing music and doing cool things around your releases. I think a lot of artists get stuck on that too, myself included. But I do think that the same kind of sentiment of like providing value as a way to really kick your imposter syndrome into submission, it applies across the board to so many things that you do in your music career, especially selling, but equally everywhere else in your ecosystem. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
And the last thing that I think I would add to this is don't be afraid to do this for your first offer. I've definitely mentioned this in the past, but Shay's a really good example of this, where I always think about her. I think it was the flannels that she hand painted the name on the back or in like a design or something. And, you know, she bought some flannels, she bought some paint, and she did it by hand. And that it wasn't like Shay had a huge customer base at that point, but she made money, she made fans, and now all these fans have this flannel. It's like, man, that's cool, I own that. And I think where you have to start early, you have to set the precedent for all your fans that I am going to make cool offers to you. You know, and if you're already down the road in your career, start now. But you have to start getting people of the mindset that like when the 502s make an offer, it's going to be cool. And like, I need to be aware of it. And sure, I can't buy everything because that, you know, over the course of the year, it's probably going to be a lot of money that I don't want to spend, you know, thousands of dollars on them. But people will take things here and there. And so you're not trying to get everybody to buy every item. You're trying to find the right people for the right item. And
at the right time. Yeah.
At the right time. Exactly. And making it personal, connecting the dots, putting your heart into it. So, you know, if you send it out, they're excited about it. Like that's what I would say. Like, just please make it cool and make it feel like it's something that people need to have in their life, because that's going to set you up for short-term success, even if it's not as much as you want, but more than anything, long-term success where people will be like, I need that. And the last example that comes to mind for me, again, I mean, I love doing the 502s offers, so they're the freshest on my mind. We started 4 years ago now, we started celebrating 50 Tuesday, which is May 2nd, and we came up with the idea of like, hey, we should do an annual shirt. So each year on May 2nd, we will have a 502s t-shirt that's a limited print. It's only available for like a week, celebrating our little holiday that we've put together, and, you know, let people grab it. The first year, I think we sold like 10 shirts. You could look at that as this underwhelming, oh, here's this exclusive t-shirt. We only sold 10 of them, right? Last year, I think we sold like 75. And so over the last 4 years, it's like 7x'd itself, because all of a sudden everybody wants this limited run shirt. And so we're slowly increasing quantity. And we did that intentionally with the idea like, oh, we're setting ourselves up for down the road. This could be a cool thing for people to have the shirts. And there would be people saying like, I've got the first ever shirt. You know, I was here for the first 50 Tuesday or the second 50 Tuesday. And sure enough, last year people started messaging us like, hey, where can I find the first 3 shirts? So that's all to say, like, make cool offers and make them short term, but keep in mind that as you make consistently cool offers, you teach people that your offers are worth having.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point to end with, is like, it sets a precedent that you're confident in yourself when you start doing this consistently. It shows fans that you're confident in what you're doing. You're confident that like it's going to be valuable to them. It's not like a take yourself too seriously thing. It's a matter of setting that precedent. I think you explained it really well, and that like that compounds upon itself over time. So I hope you guys dig this. And if you've ever been on the fence about making an offer, for one, certainly, for adding bonuses to be able to charge a bit more and actually charge what something is worth to you so that you do make some money off of it, I hope this gives you the big thumbs up and the green light that like that's okay to do, and it's actually more likely that your fans are going to like it more. I think that was the whole purpose of this, hopefully motivational of an episode. So with that, thank you guys for being here. For my awesome co-host, Mr. Ed Isola, we'll catch you guys next time on Creative Juice. Peace out, Indies.